Lyria walked through the streets of her city with her head lowered. The gleaming towers of her civilization stretched high into the sky, their polished surfaces reflecting the light of multiple suns. The streets were crowded as they always were, with aliens of all shapes and sizes moving with purpose. But she felt invisible. Or perhaps worse, she felt hated. She had always known that her genetic anomaly set her apart, but she had hoped that her skills and intelligence might protect her. They had not. Today, like so many days before, she had been reminded that she did not belong. Impure. A passerby whispered loudly, loud enough for her to hear. A group of children giggled as they pointed. Look at her. She doesn't belong here. Lyria's stomach tightened. She tried to keep her face neutral, to ignore the sharp sting of the words, but her legs felt heavy. Each step seemed to echo the judgment of the crowd around her. Even the towering buildings gleaming with perfection seemed to look down on her in silent disapproval. She had been born with a small mutation in her neural pathway, a harmless genetic difference that made her more sensitive to emotional energy. But in her world, any deviation from the norm was seen as contamination. It was a cruel irony that something that could have been a gift made her an outcast. She turned into a narrow alley to escape the stairs. The alley was dark, a rare place of quiet in the bustling city. The air smelled of ozone and metal, a mixture that made her throat tight. She pressed her back against the wall and closed her eyes, trying to calm herself. For years she had learned to live on the edge of fear, to walk among the people who scorned her while never showing how much it hurt. But today the sting seemed sharper, the world colder. As she walked further down the alley, she noticed a small crowd gathered near the edge of a construction site. She recognized the danger immediately. Structural beams were unstable, and a young alien child had wandered too close to the edge. Without thinking, she rushed forward, her small frame darting between the crowd and the dangerous beams. She reached out just in time and grabbed the child, pulling him back to safety. The crowd gasped, but instead of gratitude, she heard the same murmurs of scorn. You dare touch him? You could contaminate him. Someone shouted. Lyria's heart sank. Even her good deeds were twisted into confirmation of her impurity. She hugged the child briefly, whispering that he would be safe, then stepped back into the shadows. Tears stung her eyes, but she blinked them away. She had learned long ago that crying in public would only invite more ridicule. She wandered further, heading toward the edge of the city where the structures ended and the desert began. The desert was harsh and unforgiving, a place where only the strong or the desperate ventured. Lyria was neither. She was simply alone, and sometimes that was enough to make life unbearable. The sand stretched endlessly, a golden-brown sea under the twin suns. She trudged forward, her feet sinking slightly with each step. The heat of the sun on her skin a sharp reminder of how exposed she truly was. Hours passed. She found a small crevice between two rocks and sat down, hugging her knees. Her stomach growled, but she had no food. She had spent the last of her credits on a meager ration hours ago, hoping to survive the day. Survival had become a game of endurance, each moment stretching endlessly, testing her resolve. She thought of her family, long gone, cast aside for her impurity. She thought of her friends who had all abandoned her, and she thought of the city itself, gleaming and perfect, yet cold and unfeeling. A sound broke her thoughts, a low hum, unfamiliar and mechanical. She looked up and saw a sleek human ship descending from the sky. Its design was simple yet elegant, unlike anything she had seen in her world. Humans were rare here, usually passing through on trade missions or exploration. Most aliens avoided them, suspicious of their strange ways. But something about the ship drew her attention. It hovered gracefully, and a small ramp extended, touching the sand. A figure stepped down. He was tall, with strong shoulders and an easy confidence. His eyes scanned the horizon, not with judgment but with curiosity. He noticed her immediately, and to her surprise, he smiled. Not the kind of polite, fleeting smile she had seen from her own people, but a warm, genuine one. "Hey there," he called out, his voice carrying across the desert. "Are you okay?" Lyria froze. No one had ever asked her that. Not really. Not with sincerity. She opened her mouth to respond, but found herself unable to speak. Words had always failed her in the face of others' scorn. "Come on," he said gently, taking a step closer. "I won't hurt you. You look like you could use some help." She studied him carefully. Could she trust him? Her instincts screamed caution, but a small part of her longed to believe in kindness. Slowly, Hesitantly, she nodded. The human extended a hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. His grip was firm but not overbearing, and for the first time in her life, she felt a strange sense of safety. He helped her into the ship, which was cool and dimly lit inside. The smell of the ship was foreign but not unpleasant, a mixture of metals and oils, clean and simple. "My name's Elias," he said, offering her a seat. "I'm a traveler. I've seen a lot of worlds, and I've learned that people aren't always defined by what others say about them." Lyria swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. She had never experienced words spoken without judgment or expectation. The human's calm presence was almost overwhelming. "Why? Why help me?" she asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Elias smiled. "Because everyone deserves a chance. And because sometimes the world makes mistakes about who is valuable and who isn't. You don't have to be alone, Lyria." She blinked in surprise. "You know my name?" "I could see it on your ID," he replied casually. "But names are important. People forget that too often, and you seem like someone who's been forgotten far too long." For the first time in what felt like years, Lyria felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps somewhere in the universe there were beings who did not judge her for her anomaly, who saw her for who she truly was. The ship lifted off the desert floor smoothly, gliding away from the city. Lyria watched the familiar towers shrink below, feeling a strange mixture of relief and sadness. Her home was behind her, but so was the constant reminder that she did not belong. Ahead, she saw unknown stars and planets, possibilities she had never imagined. Elias noticed her gaze. "You've been through a lot," he said softly, "but you're stronger than you know. Out here in the vastness of space, you have a chance to find your own place. No one can judge you the way they did there. You can choose who you want to be, not who they said you were." Lyria nodded slowly, letting the words sink in. It was strange to hear encouragement instead of ridicule. It was strange to feel warmth instead of cold indifference. But more than anything, it was comforting. The ship hummed gently as it moved through the atmosphere, and Lyria allowed herself to relax for the first time in years. She thought about the people she had lost, the family and friends who had turned their backs on her, and the city that had never truly accepted her. But she also thought about the human who had reached out without judgment, offering her something she had never had: safety, kindness, and a chance to belong. As the stars stretched endlessly outside the ship's windows, Lyria realized something important. She did not have to carry the weight of her society's rejection anymore. She could forge a new path, one where her uniqueness was a strength, not a weakness. And for the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a life where she was valued, where she was seen, where she truly belonged. Elias glanced at her and smiled again, as if he understood the thoughts running through her mind. "Rest now," he said. "Tomorrow we start fresh. You'll see the universe in ways you never thought possible, and you'll find people different from them who will care for you as you are." Lyria closed her eyes, leaning back in the seat. For the first time in her life, she felt the warmth of hope spread through her chest. The human had given her something priceless, not just shelter or protection, but the promise of a home, of acceptance, and of belonging. And as the ship glided silently into the night sky, carrying her away from the world that had rejected her, Lyria allowed herself to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, she had finally found a place where she truly mattered. The hum of the human ship was steady and reassuring, a sound unlike anything Lyria had ever heard. It was alive but calm, as if the vessel itself had a heartbeat. She had spent the first few hours sitting quietly, staring out of the window at the stars stretching endlessly across the black sky. Each star was a distant sun, a promise of worlds she had never seen and possibilities she had never imagined. For the first time in her life, she felt free. Captain Elias Hart had given her a small room aboard the ship. It was simple, with soft walls that adjusted temperature and lighting automatically. There was a bed, a desk, and a small window that framed the stars. Lyria had never had her own space before, never a place where she could simply be. She explored the room slowly, running her hands along the smooth surfaces, marveling at the simplicity and comfort. The bed was soft and welcoming, unlike the hard floors she had slept on in the city's alleys. She sank onto it, closing her eyes, allowing herself to rest without fear. When she awoke, the ship was moving through a region of space filled with colorful nebulae. Elias was already in the control room, monitoring the ship's course. He glanced at her and smiled. "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" Yes, Lyria replied, her voice soft. It felt strange to answer a question without hesitation, without fear of judgment. It's different here. Elias nodded. I know, it takes some time to adjust. Most of your life has been spent following rules and avoiding danger. But out here, things work differently. You'll see that there's more to life than conformity and fear. Over the next few days, Lyria began to explore the ship more thoroughly. She learned about the different rooms, the engines, and the navigation systems. Elias encouraged her curiosity, answering her endless questions patiently. She was fascinated by the human technology, so different from anything on her homeworld. She asked about the ships humans used for exploration, about the planets they visited, and about the stars that seemed so close yet were so far away. Why do you explore? She asked one day, sitting across from him in the small mess area. Why leave everything behind? Elias looked at her thoughtfully. Because the universe is vast and full of life. Humans have always been curious. We want to understand what's out there, to learn and to grow. But it's not just about knowledge. It's about connection. Meeting others, seeing the good in them, and sometimes helping them when they need it most. That's why I stopped for you. Lyria felt a warmth in her chest. It was strange to hear someone speak with such genuine care. She had spent so long expecting judgment and cruelty that kindness felt foreign, almost unbelievable. Yet here it was in the calm voice of this human who had given her a chance when no one else would. One day, while walking through the ship's observation deck, Lyria noticed a small console blinking. Curious, she approached it. A holographic display lit up, showing data streams she did not fully understand. Elias came up behind her. That's the ship's environmental control system, he explained. It monitors oxygen temperature, energy levels, and even gravitational balance. Everything has to work perfectly for us to survive in space. Lyria touched the holographic controls tentatively. Can I try? Elias smiled. Of course. Just follow my instructions, and you'll do fine. She followed his directions carefully, adjusting settings and watching the displays change. She felt a strange sense of satisfaction when she succeeded in stabilizing the system. Elias nodded approvingly. See, you're learning fast. Your mind adapts quickly, and that will be a great strength in the future. For the first time, Lyria began to see her so-called impurity not as a weakness, but as a unique trait. Her sensitivity to energy and emotion, which had made her a target on her homeworld, allowed her to notice subtle shifts in the ship's systems that others might miss. She realized that what others had scorned could actually be a gift, something that could help her thrive in this new environment. One evening, as the ship traveled past a vibrant blue gas giant, alarms suddenly rang out. The ship shuddered violently, throwing Lyria to the floor. Elias was already at the controls, his hands moving quickly over the console. We're entering a meteor field, hold on. Lyria struggled to her feet, fear rising in her chest. The ship rocked again, and she could see small meteors striking the hull. Her heart raced. She had faced danger on her planet, but this was different, unpredictable, unforgiving. Elias shouted instructions, and Lyria realized that she could help. Her sensitivity to vibrations and energy allowed her to detect shifts in the ship's balance. She relayed the information to Elias, guiding him on adjustments he would have missed. Together, they navigated the ship through the meteor field, each strike against the hull a reminder of how fragile life could be. When the last meteor passed, the ship stabilized and both of them exhaled in relief. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. You did well. I couldn't have done it without you. Lyria's chest swelled with pride. For the first time, someone acknowledged her ability, her worth, without judgment or ridicule. She realized that she was not defined by her past, her impurity, or the cruel rules of her society. She was capable, strong, and valuable in ways she had never imagined. The days that followed were filled with learning, exploration, and moments of quiet reflection. Lyria began to understand human culture and values, their respect for individual differences and their belief in helping others. She started practicing the ship's maintenance tasks, learning navigation protocols and studying the stars. Elias encouraged her to ask questions, to challenge herself, and to trust her instincts. One day, while observing a distant star system, Lyria spoke quietly, almost to herself. I never thought I could be important. I never thought someone could see me as normal. Elias looked at her kindly. You are important, Lyria, you always were. You just didn't have anyone to show you that before. Here your uniqueness is a strength. Your difference makes you capable of things others cannot do. Lyria smiled softly, a feeling of warmth spreading through her that had nothing to do with the ship's environment. She had found someone who saw her, truly saw her, and valued her for who she was. As weeks passed, the ship approached a new planet, one that Elias intended to explore. It was a lush green world, untouched and full of potential. Lyria felt a thrill of excitement. The planet represented new beginnings, a place where she could test her abilities and find her place in the universe. Elias prepared the landing sequence, and Lyria assisted, feeling a sense of purpose and capability she had never known. The ship touched down gently and the ramp extended. Lyria stepped out onto the soft, grassy surface, inhaling the fresh, fragrant air. She looked around at the vibrant landscape, realizing that this world was a blank canvas. Here she could start anew, free from the judgment and cruelty of her past. Elias smiled at her from the ship. "This is your chance, Lyria. A new beginning. You can choose who you want to be here. No one will tell you otherwise." Lyria felt a surge of determination. She thought about the challenges she had faced, the loneliness, the rejection, and the fear. She also thought about the human who had reached out to her, offering warmth and acceptance when no one else would. She realized that her past did not define her. Her choices did. With a deep breath, she stepped forward into the world, feeling the soft grass beneath her feet and the sun on her skin. She felt alive in a way she had never felt before. For the first time, she believed that she could build a life where she was valued, where she could belong, and where she could make a difference. Elias joined her, and together they began to explore the planet. They discovered small streams, colorful plants, and strange creatures that moved gracefully through the landscape. Lyria's senses, once scorned as weaknesses, allowed her to detect patterns and behaviors that Elias might have missed. She realized that her uniqueness was not a curse, it was a gift, a key to understanding this new world and thriving in it. As the twin suns began to set, casting long shadows across the landscape, Lyria felt a sense of peace she had never known. She had survived rejection, loneliness, and fear. She had found kindness, trust, and purpose, and now, on this new world, she had the chance to create a life of her own choosing. For the first time, she did not feel like an outcast. She felt like someone who belonged. And as she looked at Elias, who had given her the gift of hope and a chance to start over, she realized that she had found not only safety but a home, one she could shape, one she could protect, and one where she could finally be herself. The stars appeared one by one in the darkening sky, each a reminder of the endless possibilities that awaited. Lyria smiled, her heart light, her spirit renewed. She had survived the past, embraced the present, and looked forward to the future, and in that moment, she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would face them with courage, resilience, and the knowledge that she was valued for who she truly was. Lyria stood at the edge of the observation deck, watching the planet shrink behind them as the ship lifted off. The green world, vibrant and full of life, had been a revelation, but space awaited. She had barely begun to understand her place among the stars, and now she would face her first true challenge in the universe beyond her homeworld. Captain Elias Hart had planned their next journey carefully. They were heading toward a remote star system known for its rich mineral deposits, a place humans had studied for potential colonization, but it was also dangerous. The planets there were unstable, and asteroid belts frequently shifted without warning. Lyria's excitement was mixed with apprehension. She had never traveled this far, never been responsible for someone else's safety, and the weight of the unknown pressed on her chest. As they approached the system, alarms suddenly rang throughout the ship. Lyria's heart jumped. The monitors flashed red, showing a massive asteroid cluster moving unpredictably. Elias immediately took control of the navigation system, his hands flying over the controls. "We're going to need precision," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I'll guide the ship, but I'll need your help. Your ability to sense energy shifts could warn us of any structural stress before it happens." Lyria nodded, swallowing the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. This was her chance to prove herself, not only to Elias, but to herself. She focused, closing her eyes for a moment to feel the subtle vibrations and energy patterns within the ship. She could detect tiny changes in the hull's stability, faint tremors that even the ship's instruments had not yet registered. Her pulse quickened, but her mind remained steady. "Brace for turbulence," Elias warned, and the ship lurched as the first asteroid struck. The hull rattled and lights flickered. Lyria's hands moved over the auxiliary controls, relaying real-time data to Elias. Left thrusters at 30%. Adjust main stabilizer by 5 degrees. Elias followed her instructions with precision, and together they guided the ship through the shifting field. Each strike of an asteroid was a jolt, a reminder of the fragile line between life and death in the void of space. Sweat ran down Lyria's forehead, but she refused to look away. Her senses, once scorned as a weakness, were now saving lives. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by Elias's calm directions and Lyria's updates. The ship groaned under the strain, but slowly they emerged from the asteroid cluster. The alarms ceased and the lights returned to their normal glow. Both of them exhaled, relief washing over them. Elias turned to Lyria, a proud smile on his face. "You did exceptionally well," he said. "Your ability saved the ship. You should be proud of yourself." Lyria's chest swelled with emotion. For the first time, she felt truly competent, truly needed. She realized that the same traits that had caused her rejection on her homeworld were now her greatest strengths. Her sensitivity to energy and subtle shifts, her quick thinking and her determination had turned her into a hero. But the journey was far from over. Their destination was a small planet on the edge of the system, rumored to hold resources essential for human colonization. As they entered orbit, Lyria's excitement returned. She had never seen a planet like this before. Its surface was covered with jagged mountains and vast valleys, rivers of molten rock flowing into vast chasms. It was dangerous but beautiful in a harsh, raw way. Elias prepared the landing sequence and Lyria assisted, monitoring the ship's stability and terrain sensors. As they descended, a violent storm erupted, the planet's atmosphere shifting unpredictably. Lightning crackled across the sky, striking jagged peaks and sending shockwaves through the air. The ship trembled, and Lyria's heart raced. "Adjust shields to 40%, she shouted, reading the energy fluctuations on the console. "Reduce lateral thrust by 10. "Steady now!" Elias followed her instructions flawlessly, and the ship landed with a heavy thud. The storm continued to rage outside, but inside Lyria felt a surge of triumph. She had faced danger, uncertainty, and fear, and she had come through stronger than before. Stepping out onto the planet's surface, Lyria was struck by the raw power of the environment. The air was thick and warm, carrying the smell of sulfur and molten rock. Every step was a test, the ground shifting beneath her feet. But she moved carefully, guided by her instincts and her newfound confidence. "This is incredible," Elias said beside her. "Not just the planet, but you. I've never seen someone adapt so quickly to a new environment." Lyria smiled faintly. "I guess. I finally understand what it means to be useful, to belong somewhere," Elias nodded. "Exactly. Belonging isn't given, it's earned, discovered, and sometimes created. And you've already begun to create your place here." They spent days exploring the planet, mapping the terrain and collecting samples of the minerals. Lyria's unique abilities made her an invaluable partner. She could detect shifts in the planet's energy that indicated unstable ground or hidden lava flows, keeping them safe from harm. Her confidence grew with each passing moment, and she began to enjoy the thrill of discovery. One evening, after a long day of exploration, they set up a small camp in a sheltered valley. The sky above was painted with the swirling colors of the planet's auroras, brilliant reds, purples, and blues dancing across the horizon. Lyria sat on a rock gazing at the lights, feeling a sense of peace she had never known. "You're amazing," Elias said softly, sitting beside her. "Most people would have panicked today, but you thrived. You're stronger than you realize." Lyria turned to him, her eyes reflecting the auroras above. "I've always been told I was worthless, that I was impure, but here, I feel like I matter, like I can make a difference." Elias smiled. "You do matter, Lyria, you always have. And now you finally see it too." As night fell, they settled into their temporary shelter. The planet's strange creatures moved silently in the darkness, their glowing eyes peering from the shadows. Lyria felt a mixture of awe and caution. She was far from the safety of her homeworld, yet she had never felt more alive. She realized that life was not about avoiding danger or living up to other people's standards. It was about embracing who you are, using your strengths, and finding your place in the universe. Over the next several days, Lyria continued to learn and grow. She studied the planet's ecosystems, its weather patterns, and the behavior of its creatures. She worked alongside Elias to repair and maintain the ship, her confidence increasing with each successful task. The human captain encouraged her curiosity, always patient and supportive, teaching her to trust herself and her instincts. One morning, while exploring a narrow canyon, they discovered a hidden cave filled with glowing crystals. The crystals emitted a faint hum, resonating with Lyria's own sensitivity to energy. She reached out, feeling the vibrations travel through her body, and realized that these crystals could be a valuable resource for the ship's energy systems. Elias watched in amazement as she guided him through the discovery, her instincts leading them to the most stable formations. "This is incredible," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "You have a gift, Lyria, one that can change the way we explore the universe." For the first time, Lyria allowed herself to believe in her potential. She had faced rejection, fear, and loneliness, but she had survived. She had discovered strength within herself that she never knew existed, and now, in the vastness of space, she felt empowered, capable of achieving great things. As they prepared to leave the planet, Lyria looked back at the jagged peaks and glowing crystals. She felt a sense of gratitude for the challenges she had faced, for they had led her to this moment. She was no longer defined by her past or the cruel judgments of her homeworld. She was defined by her actions, her courage, and her willingness to embrace the unknown. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder as they boarded the ship. "Ready for the next adventure?" he asked. Lyria nodded, a determined smile on her face. "Yes, whatever comes next, I'm ready." The ship lifted off, leaving the stormy planet behind. Lyria gazed out at the stars, feeling a profound sense of purpose. She had faced her first real test, and she had emerged stronger, braver, and more confident than ever. She knew that the universe was vast and unpredictable, but she also knew that she was capable of navigating it, of finding her place, and of making a difference. For the first time in her life, Lyria truly believed in herself, and as the ship glided silently through the endless expanse of space, she felt a sense of excitement for the future, a future she would shape with courage, determination, and the knowledge that she was valued for who she truly was. The stars stretched endlessly before her, each one a new possibility, a new beginning. Lyria smiled, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, confident that she had finally found her strength and her purpose in the universe. The ship drifted through space, leaving the stormy planet behind. Lyria stood at the observation deck, her hands resting on the railing, eyes fixed on the stars stretching infinitely before her. Each point of light seemed to whisper possibilities, worlds waiting to be explored, lives waiting to be changed. She no longer felt fear or hesitation, only purpose. The trials she had faced, from rejection on her homeworld to the dangers of the asteroid field and the storm-racked planet, had shaped her into someone stronger, someone who could make a difference. Elias approached, his presence calm and reassuring. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his voice quiet but carrying the weight of care. Lyria smiled softly. "I feel ready to face whatever comes next. I've learned that I can handle challenges, and I've learned that I have worth, real worth. Not the kind they told me I had, but the kind that comes from what I can do, from who I am." Elias nodded. "You've come a long way, Lyria. You've turned every obstacle into a lesson and every moment of fear into strength. That is what being human, or rather embracing humanity, teaches us. Courage, empathy, and trust in oneself." They spent the next few days preparing the ship for a long journey to a distant, uncolonized planet. Elias had discovered data indicating the planet was suitable for life, and potentially for starting a new settlement. For Lyria, this represented something more than exploration. It was an opportunity to create a home, a place where others who had been rejected or misunderstood could belong, just as she had found belonging with Elias. When they arrived in orbit around the planet, Lyria's breath caught in awe. The surface was alive with color, vast green forests, rivers winding like silver threads, and mountains that glimmered in the light of the planet's single radiant sun. The air shimmered faintly from the heat, promising fertile soil and abundant resources. Elias guided the ship down through the atmosphere, and Lyria assisted with navigation, adjusting for wind currents and gravity shifts. The landing was smooth, and Lyria stepped onto the planet's surface, her feet sinking slightly into the soft earth. It felt warm, welcoming, and alive, unlike the cold, sterile streets of her homeworld. She inhaled deeply, savoring the clean, fresh scent of plants and soil. She felt a surge of purpose unlike anything she had experienced. This was not just a new world. It was a chance to shape something lasting, to help create a community where no one would be judged for their differences. "Look at it," Elias said beside her. "You have the opportunity to help build something meaningful here, to make a place where people, anyone, can belong." Lyria nodded, determination settling in her chest. "I want to do that. I want to help, to make it better than anywhere I've ever known." Over the next several weeks, Lyria and Elias explored the planet thoroughly, selecting a location for their settlement. They found a valley protected by mountains on 3 sides, with a river providing fresh water and fertile land for crops. Lyria took charge of surveying the area, using her unique ability to sense subtle energy patterns in the land, which helped them avoid unstable ground and natural hazards. As they began construction, Lyria felt a deep sense of satisfaction. For the first time, she was creating something lasting, something meaningful with her own hands and mind. Every beam placed, every shelter constructed, was a testament to her resilience and capability. She no longer felt like someone cast aside. She was a builder, a guide, and a protector. Elias watched her work with quiet pride. "You've grown so much, Lyria. You're not just surviving anymore, you're thriving. And you're helping others thrive, too." Word of their new settlement eventually spread across nearby systems. Aliens and humans who had been outcasts, travelers seeking a place of acceptance, or those simply curious about the opportunity began to arrive. Lyria greeted each newcomer with kindness and guidance, sharing her knowledge of the planet, its resources, and how to live safely within its environment. She had become a leader without realizing it, not by force but through compassion, skill, and courage. One morning, while inspecting the fields they had planted, Lyria noticed a young alien girl lingering at the edge of the valley. She reminded Lyria of herself at that age, alone, uncertain, and afraid. Lyria approached gently, offering a warm smile. "Hello," she said softly. "You don't have to be afraid. This is a safe place." The girl's eyes widened and she nodded hesitantly. I was told I don't belong anywhere." Lyria's heart ached, but she knelt to meet the girl's gaze. "I know how that feels," she said. "But here you do belong. You're important and you're valued. You're safe." Over the following days, the girl began to work alongside Lyria, learning about the land, the crops, and the community. Lyria shared her own story, not to frighten but to inspire, showing that it was possible to overcome rejection and find strength in oneself. The girl's confidence grew, and Lyria felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Helping others was more rewarding than she had ever imagined, and she realized that true belonging came not just from being accepted, but from accepting and supporting others. As the settlement expanded, Lyria worked tirelessly. She coordinated resource gathering, ensured safety measures were in place, and mentored newcomers. Her ability to sense subtle energies proved invaluable for detecting natural hazards and maintaining the stability of their shelters. Her reputation grew, and aliens and humans alike began to see her not as impure or different, but as a capable leader and protector. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the valley, Lyria stood atop a hill overlooking the settlement. She could see the warm lights of the shelters scattered across the landscape, hear laughter and conversation, and feel the hum of life thriving in a place she had helped shape. Elias joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You've done something remarkable here, Lyria," he said. "You've taken your pain and turned it into strength. You've built a home, a community, and a place where people can belong." Lyria smiled, her eyes reflecting the moons above. "I never thought I could. I thought I was worthless, that I would always be cast aside. But now I see that being different is not a curse. It's a gift, something that can help others and make a difference." Elias nodded. "And that's what makes you human in the best way possible, not just in body but in spirit. Courage, empathy, and the willingness to make the universe better." Lyria felt a swell of pride and peace. She had faced rejection, fear, and danger, yet here she was, not only surviving but thriving. She had found acceptance, purpose, and a home, and she had created a place where others who had been cast aside could find the same warmth and belonging she had been given. As the nights passed, the settlement flourished. Crops grew, shelters expanded, and the community grew stronger with each newcomer. Lyria continued to guide and protect, always teaching that differences were strengths and that every individual had value. The valley became a beacon for those who had been rejected or misunderstood, a place where empathy, Courage and collaboration defined life rather than status or purity. One morning, while walking along the river that wound through the valley, Lyria paused and took a deep breath. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of blooming plants and the faint hum of the planet's life energy. She reflected on her journey, from the rejection and cruelty of her homeworld to the first steps aboard Elias's ship, through the challenges of dangerous planets and asteroid fields, to the creation of a thriving community. Every moment had shaped her, taught her, and strengthened her. She realized that her past, once a source of pain and shame, was now a foundation for empathy and leadership. She understood that true strength was not in perfection, but in resilience, in the ability to rise despite rejection, and in the courage to help others along the way. As she gazed at the flourishing settlement, Lyria felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had found her place in the universe not by fitting into someone else's expectations, but by embracing who she truly was. She had discovered that belonging was not given. It was created through kindness, courage, and the willingness to stand for something greater than oneself. Elias joined her silently, watching the settlement come alive under the twin moons. "You've made a real difference here, Lyria," he said quietly, "and I have no doubt that the lives of everyone who comes here will be better because of you." Lyria smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "I couldn't have done it without your trust and guidance. You showed me what it means to care for someone, to believe in them. You gave me a home when I had none." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder gently. "And you've turned that gift into something far greater, something that will last for generations. You've proven that even the most unlikely person can shape the universe in meaningful ways." Lyria looked at the stars above, shimmering with endless possibilities. She felt hope, courage, and pride. She had overcome rejection, discovered her strengths, and created a home where everyone could belong. And as the gentle wind of the valley rustled through the plants in the community, the universe was vast, unpredictable, and full of challenges. But Lyria no longer feared it. She had learned that the heart, determination, and compassion were stronger than any obstacle. She had discovered her true worth and used it to build a place of warmth, belonging, and hope. And as she stood there looking at the moons and stars, she understood that this was only the start.